Success is not an accident. It is the fruit of immense hard work, sleepless nights, and of course, lots of sacrifices. And last but not the least, loving what you are doing. Hello and namaskar. A very warm welcome to you all in today's yet another exciting, rather inspiring episode of Meet My Jet, organized by our respected sir, Professor Dr. Prem Kumar Agarwal, the man behind these wonderful success stories, the alchemist, our mentor, friend, philosopher, and guide. Sir needs no introduction. Former judge, he left the service to pursue the noblest profession of teaching. Former faculty of the West Bengal National University of Juridical Science and current HOD of Hooghly Mohsin College. Writers of books like Limitation, Intellectual Property Rights, and Company Act. And trust me, this list is illustrative and not exhaustive. Without any further ado, let's directly meet Sir. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Pratyusha. A very good evening and welcome, Vedashruti. In today's episode of Meet My Gems, our guest is Vedashruti Mollik, who is a graduate of the West Bengal National University of Juridical Sciences, my previous Karma Bhumi, and she secured a rank in the West Bengal Judicial Service Examination 2019. Her rank was 30. Today, Vedashruti will reveal her secret of success of becoming a judicial officer. Pratyusha, another gem of mine, will ask insightful questions to Vedashruti, and through their conversation, the aspirants of the judicial service and other services will be inspired and motivated. Pratyusha, you may begin now.
Thank you, sir. First of all, ma'am, a very warm welcome to today's episode. And heartiest congratulations for your wonderful success. And thank you so much for affording your valuable time to us.
Good evening and thank you, Protusha, and also a big thank you to Sir for inviting me today for today's sessions. And with Sir's blessing, I would like to proceed. So please.
Okay. So, ma'am, my first question to you, how and why the dream of being a judge blossomed within you?
Okay, so initially, being a judicial officer or a judge was not part of my agenda. When I joined my law school, West Bengal National University of Juridical Sciences, um, my plan was to become a corporate lawyer. So I wanted that at the end of 5 years, I would join a decent law firm and would become a corporate lawyer. However, as days passed and I became more exposed to legal studies, and I started talking to my professors, to my seniors, friends from college, and also from outside of college who have already cracked the West Bengal Judicial Service examination, and people who were also aspirants at that time. I spoke to them and I realized that the idea of becoming a judge really fascinated me. The idea of being someone like a judge who is able to sit in a chair and is having the privilege of delivering justice. Uh, that was very inspiring for me. That fascinated me a lot. Apart from that, in my third year of college, I had the opportunity of interning under eminent senior advocate, Dr. Rajiv Dhawan, and his knowledge and wisdom really was very inspiring. And during whatever interactions we had during my brief course of internship, he helped me in understanding and realizing that the that there are various aspects in laws that needs rectification. There are various aspects in laws that requires a bit of correction, and even though being a judge your hands are tied as only legal interpreters of law, still you would get ample opportunities to rectify law, to make a difference, a meaningful difference by creative interpretation of law and by contributing to the evolution of law. So hearing this from him was really very inspiring for me, uh, and that really helped me in solidifying my plan for becoming a judge. Also, I would say that my mother played a very pivotal role in shaping up my dream because she is a West Bengal civil service officer, and from my very childhood I've always seen her using her administrative power and position for the betterment of the society, for helping out individuals in whatever small way possible, and she always inspired me to do the same. So that was my inspiration. So all these things really helped me to solidify my plan of being a judge, and by the time I reached my fifth year, I was kind of determined that yes, I want to become a judicial officer. So yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful. Ma'am, my next question to you in this regard that after law graduation, many of us, especially those students who belong from non-legal background family, suffers from the dilemma that about the career choices, as now legal field also offering various dynamic career options. How to choose the right career path? What do you
Mhm.
suggest?
Yes, so indeed that is a problem, especially for students who belong to non-legal backgrounds, which was also in my case because none of my family members belong to the legal fraternity. So that was a problem for me initially. But as I said, that when you are exposed, when you join law school and when you're exposed to legal studies and you start talking to your professors, your seniors, when you start studying various judgments, when you are going through various legal blogs, these things really help you in understanding your area of interest. You slowly you start to
Okay.
understand slowly you start to
Mm-hmm.
understand where your passion really lies. um, so yeah, that was the same thing happened with me also. Initially, as I thought I would be a corporate lawyer, but then again, as time passed, my plans changed, and I realized that being a judicial officer is my calling. uh, Apart from that, I would say, doing internships also helps you a lot. National law schools in that regard encourages the practice of internships right from your first year. So doing these kinds of internships in various legal forums really helps you in understanding the workings of various legal forums. Like if you join places like various NGOs or human rights agencies, or if you are interning under some criminal advocate or civil advocate, if you are interning under any corporate firms, so these things really open up a window to the vast world
Mm-hmm.
of the various dynamic career options in front of you, and that really helps you in understanding where your passion lies. So yeah, these things really help you a lot. So
So
that is
here, like, yeah.
yeah, you can ask whatever you were asking.
So here mentor plays a great role, right? So whom do you consider as your mentor, and how he or she inspired you in this endeavor? Of course.
Of course, my mentor was Dr. Prem Kumar Agarwal, sir. I mean, his my words will fall short to describe the depth of his knowledge and his wisdom. I mean, the he is a man of many wonders, first of all, and the greatest thing about him is that his command over each and every subject. Uh, because he, like, whenever I ask him any questions, no matter what subject, whatever areas, whatever provisions, statutes, everything, he always had an answer ready for that question. I like personally, I never saw him, fumbling for an answer. He was always ready with an answer. I mean, I'm really not sure how he did that, but that completely left me awestruck. Um, Apart from that, he also has a wonderful ability of explaining things to you in a very simple way. So if you ever approach him with any sort of question or any sort of topic that you might find a bit tough, he will readily he will readily explain you that topic in a very simple language, and it will be very easy for you to understand and remember that topic. So that was very helpful for me. during my preparation days. As you know, a mentor is very important for showing you the right ways. You know, if you're having any loopholes in your studies, if you're having any loopholes in the way you write your answers, your notes, so having a mentor is very important, and he would definitely guide you guide you through your to your success. And that was the case of me with Dr. Agarwal sir. Whenever I had any queries, any doubts, any sort of questions, I always approached him, and he always made sure to explain it to me very nicely. And I remember, you know, calling him even at odd hours whenever I had any doubts. And he never complained. He always took my call in a very jovial manner and always made sure to, you know, clarify my doubts. So I'm very grateful to him for that. So yeah, having a mentor is really important. But
Yeah, he
having said that, I
ocean
would
of.
say, yeah, having
Yeah,
said
ma'am.
that,
Proceed. Please proceed.
yeah, having said that, I would say even if you don't have a mentor, you can always you can take the help of your professors from your college, or you can talk to your seniors. You can talk to your, you know, other aspirants, people who have already cracked the examination. That is also very helpful. So, yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. My next question to you: what are the main difficulties or impediments that you face during your preparation days?
Okay, so my difficulties were like, see, I appeared for the examination for the first time in 2016, only after I passed out from college. That is, after I passed out from college, only the next year I appeared for the examination for the first time. But I could not clear the examination that time, obviously, because my preparation was not up to the mark. So after that, I started litigation. I went into practicing at High Court under the guidance of Shamul Kumar Das sir. But sometimes, you know, when you are working, when you're practicing in court, or even when you are, you know, pursuing your masters, maybe there are times when you might feel everything to be a little hectic. You might not be able to, you know, follow a definite study pattern, or you might not be able to follow a definite routine for yourself. So things like that happen to me at times. But then again, I would say that, you know, joining uh, practicing joining the court for practicing definitely helps, and the number of advantages that come with practicing definitely outweighs the number of disadvantages that are associated with it. Because when you are practicing in court, you get to know about a lot of practical knowledge about the workings of the court, you know, the court cultures, court etiquettes and decorums and all of those things. So those things are very helpful, even if, even after you join as a judicial officer later on. Apart from that, other impediments, I would say, you know, in 2017 I got married. So sometimes, as you can tell, being a newlywed, you know, managing your work life, your married life, your studies, all of that would become a bit too overwhelming for you at times. But then you
Mhm.
have to learn how to balance all of these. You cannot, you know, ignore these things, because after all, these are responsibilities that you will have to take up at certain point of time. So you cannot help it. You will have to learn how to manage those things. And even I did the same thing. And yeah, my in-laws were very supportive of me in my career path. So I was really lucky in that aspect. So everything sorted out for me in the end. So yeah.
Wonderful, ma'am. Ma'am, my next question to you: as the syllabus of judicial service is quite vast, students often find it difficult to complete it within time. Even if one can finish it by any way, but hardly any time is left for revision or repetition and end up forgetting everything. So, had you faced the same kind of problem and how did you manage?
Well, yes, I did sometimes find it difficult to complete the syllabus then again, but you have to remember that, you know, uh, the syllabus for West Bengal Judicial Service is really vast, because there are 11 papers, and that
Yeah.
also have some subparts, right? So
Hmm.
you have to understand that you should take at least a period of 2 years for completing the syllabus, and for, you know, fruitful revisions also. Because a lot of time initially when you are starting your preparations, a lot of time is uh, taken for understanding the scheme and pattern of the syllabus, because that is very important, understanding the scheme and syllabus of the entire examinations. So yes, I would say that one thing really helps, which helped me a lot, is that you can chalk out a plan for yourself, a workable timetable, a schedule for yourself, like
Hmm.
what time, how much time you want to devote for which subject, which are your areas of strength, your weaknesses, all those things, and accordingly you can chalk out a plan for yourself, so that you can manage your time more effectively, and so that no subjects are ignored, none of the subjects are neglected. You can devote equal amount of time for each subject, and you can finish them off within time. But another thing
Hmm.
you should keep in mind is that you have to formulate that kind of a plan in such a way that at least you would have 3 months of time prior to the examination for your revisions, because that last minute revision is very important. So yeah, that is how I formulated my plan, and that quite helped me in completing the syllabus within time. And another thing about forgetting whatever you are studying is, what my mentor Dr. Agarwal sir suggested me to do is, in order to keep things in mind so that you don't remember whatever you've studied, you have to inculcate the habit of writing besides reading. Writing is completely essential
Yes.
as you read something. So whenever you're reading a topic, I'm not saying that you have to write all the topics exhaustively, but at least make a short note out of a big topic. The short note can contain certain keywords, different pointers, the main portions, maybe some legal maxims here and there, the relevant sections, one or two case laws if required. So making those short notes, you will find that it is becoming much more easier for you to remember things, and when you revise during the time of a revision, you don't need to go through the entire textbook. What you can do is you can go through these notes of yours, and you will see that you are easily being able to recall everything that you have prepared so far. So that thing really helps you in revision and in not forgetting uh, your studies. So yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. How you started your preparation and how much time you devoted for study?
Well, I started my preparations. As I said, I took about 2 months of 2 years of time for my completing my syllabus. So the first thing that I did was to formulate a plan, formulate a timetable for myself, that how much time I want to devote for which subject. Initially, I started with the subjects that I found a little bit tougher, a little bit lengthier, like CPC, CRPC, IPC evidence, property law, contracts law. And only after I completed those subjects, I moved on to the subjects that I found a bit lighter, like torts, Limitation Act, the personal laws. So that's how I started my preparation. And apart from that, I would say, you know, you can, for each subject, I used to follow a single textbook. I never followed more than one textbook for each subject, because unless there were some topics missing in that textbook, or unless some points were not as elaborately described as I would like them to be, only then I refer to some other textbooks. But otherwise I always refer to one textbook for per subject. So yeah, that's how I did my work.
So, ma'am, my immediate question to you: what is your strategy for preparing effective note?
See, notes, as I said, I never made exhaustive notes, but yes, as I said, I made short notes for each topics, because I never used to read anyone else's notes. I always prepared my own notes, because reading others' notes never helped me. I used to make short notes out of big topics, and that really helped me in revising. Apart from that, I would say, reading, studying for, if you are uh, referring to the question banks, that is the previous years 10 to 15 years of question papers. Solving those question papers really help you a lot. Okay, because
Hmm.
you will become acquainted with the kind of questions that are coming every year, the kind of questions that are being repeated every year, so things like that. So I used to solve those question papers. Sometimes I used to make notes for those questions which were a bit analytical, which were a bit tricky. I used to refer to my textbooks. Sometimes I used to refer to some internet sources, and I used to formulate an answer, and then I used to get them corrected by my mentor and ask him for his valuable suggestions. And Sir always helped me. He always told me, if my answer was going in the right direction, if I needed to strike out some points, or if I needed to add some points. So that really helped me a lot in improving the quality of my answers. And yeah, that is how I made my notes. That's about it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And ma'am, the notion write more to get more marks. How true?
It is not at all true, especially for competitive exams like this. Writing the concept that you have to write pages after pages for the sake of getting uh, more marks is not at all true. In fact, it creates bad impression in the eyes of the examiner. Because see, if you only have 3 hours to complete your entire paper, and the papers tend to become a little lengthy. So if you are like devoting too much time for writing one answer, you're going on writing pages after pages, then your other answers will suffer. You will end up not being able to complete the paper within time. So writing a lot for even lengthy answers is never advisable. Even for lengthy answers like 20 marks question, 15 marks question, I think writing for 4 to 5 pages is more than sufficient. uh, for 10 marks question, I would say writing about 3 pages, and for 5 marks question for about 1 page, both sides, that would be more than sufficient. And sometimes you can also provide illustrations. It is always good to provide illustrations. Like for lengthy answers, you can provide one or two illustrations. For shorter questions, you can provide one illustrations. But yeah, as I said, writing too much for the sake of getting answers is not at all advisable. So
Very valuable advice, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, judicial service consists of three stages, right? Preliminary, mains, and interview part. So, how an aspirant should segregate his or her preparation for these three stages?
well, as I said, first you need to, understand the scheme and syllabus of the examination. You need to get yourself acquainted with that. Next, you need to get hold of a question paper, and you need to see the kind of questions that are coming every year.
Hmm.
The marks distributions, the number of marks that are allotted for all the questions for each subject. That is very important. After that, what you can do is you can go through uh, all the subjects, and you can chalk out a plan, as I said, that for which subject you
Hmm.
want to devote how much time.
Hmm.
Sorry, for which subject you want to devote how much time, and things like that. um, what I did was, first I never started the preparation with prelims. Prelims I started later on. I'll get to that later. First, I started with my
Hmm.
mains preparations. What I did was, as I said, I used to get hold of one textbook for per subject, and uh, also I
Hmm.
used to refer to the Bare Acts alongside. And
Hmm.
that I used to, first I used to read, and then I used to write the short notes. I mean, I used to summarize them into small short notes. And after that, I used to revise. So these three things are very important: writing, reading, and revision. Apart from that, for preliminary, you don't have to work as exhaustively for preliminary as you would for your mains, because as you are, preparing for your mains examinations, when you are, referring to your textbooks, and you're referring to your bare acts on a regular basis, I think more than half of the work for prelims is done. So that really helps. I only started serious preparations for my prelims only after the notifications of the examinations came out. So I spent only about a month's time for my preliminary preparations. I think that is enough. But for subjects which are not there in your mains, like constitutional law, subjects like that, unless you are opting for it in your optionals, that you can brush up at times. For that, Universal Publications Guide to Judicial Examination book is very good. It consists of a number of MCQs, so you can always solve those MCQs. And I think if you do these things, you will be sorted for your preliminary examination. And after that comes the preparation for interview. Interview preparation also I started only after the results of the written examinations came out. I think a lot of people, a lot of successful candidates who have qualified for personality test do that. They only start their preparations for interview once the results for written examination has come out. But what you can do is you can also sometimes brush up your knowledge about the practical knowledge about the functioning of the courts. Also sometimes you can brush up your knowledge of geography about the state of West Bengal, historical importance of your own hometown or various important places within the state. So yeah, this is how you have to segregate your preparation for mains, for your prelims, and for your interview.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, since means is the main deciding factor, how one should write his or her paper to make it unique and appear it different from the others.
The first thing that I would say is that the overall, for making your paper unique and to set it apart from others, the first thing that you should give importance to is the overall look of your question, of your answer sheet rather. So your answer sheet should be very neat and clean. And by neat and clean, I don't mean that you have to write in perfect handwriting, because your handwriting, when you're writing at great speed during examinations, they would tend to become a little loopy. But
Hmm.
what you have to do is, you have to draw margins on all sides of the paper. If not on the four sides, at least on two sides, the topmost part and the left hand side, that you have to do. Try drawing a line after you have completed each of your answers. Also, try not to mix up your, there are group A and group B for each subject. So try not mixing up the answers. And when you're taking loose sheets, try to stitch them in a proper way, because these things might seem to be a bit trivial, but when you are in a hurry at the last minute of the examination, sometimes you're in a hurry
Hmm.
and you tend to mix up the pages, or you tend to lose your answer sheets. So that should not happen. Next, if I talk about the few technical things, then you should always give headings to your answers. You should always give a heading, and then for the different points, you should give subheadings. You should highlight the key portions, the keywords, the legal maxims, the names of the case laws sections. About names of case laws, I did not learn the names of case laws for any other subject apart from contracts and torts, because that was really a bit difficult for me to learn case laws for all the subjects. So if you are giving names of case laws, make sure that you are giving the right name. Don't give wrong names of case laws. And if you can't recall the name of the case laws, what you can do is you can always write that in a landmark judgment, the Supreme Court said this or that. But make sure to never write the wrong names of the case laws. um, these technical things. And as I said, always mark, highlight the keywords. For that, you have to use two kinds of ink, one blue pen, one black pen. And apart from that, if I'm talking about the quality of your answers, then
Hmm.
try to write them in your own language. Please don't go on mugging up things from the textbooks directly, because that never helps. That never helped me. uh, Always try to write answers in your own language. That serves two purpose actually. That helps you in remembering things easily, and that also creates a good impression in the examiner's mind that you have really understood the concept and you are being able to write the entire concept in your own language. uh, Apart from that, don't miss out any points. Be Make sure to write all the points. Don't make it too lengthy. Write it in a short way, but don't miss out any points. So yeah, these things I think are enough to set your papers apart from the other competitors. So yes.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you. And what about language paper? How you prepared yourself for these two?
Well,
Actually, three.
yeah, language papers, I would say. For English, I did not prepare as much because my schooling was from an English medium school, and my general understanding of the subject was pretty decent, I would say. So I did not devote as much time for English. But yeah, for the essay portions, yes, I would say preparing for essays is important. So for that, what you can do is you can always go through the editorial portions of the newspapers. I personally never went through any essay books. What I used to do was I used to go through the editorial portions of the newspapers. Sometimes I used to subscribe to the Chronicles IAS magazine and also Competition Success Review magazine. Those magazines give you number of sample essays which are really good, and if you can go through those essays, it really helps you a lot. So I used to do that, and for few relevant topics also sometimes I used to take the help of the internet. So that was my preparation strategy for English. For Bengali, you can get hold of any good books in the college street. There are a number of good books in the market. uh, you can get hold of a book which is meant for WBC's preparation. uh, those books contain a lot of things about translation, because the translation portion tends to get a little bit tricky, and if you're not uh, uh, revising the translation portions, if you're not practicing translations on a regular basis during examination, you might face a bit difficulty in solving that. So translations I used to practice from these books. I don't remember the name of the book right now, but yeah, there are a number of books, good books in the market. So that's what I used to do for language papers.
And for current affairs and GK, as we know that 19 current affair paper is pretty tough.
Yes, of course. See, current affairs and GK, there is really no syllabus because everything that is happening around you, everything that is happening in the world and has happened is your syllabus. So I would say that it is better to follow the newspaper on a daily basis. Please be aware of the happenings that is going on around the world. Keep yourself updated. I used to spend at least an hour or 1.5 hours every day for reading the newspapers and brushing up my GK and current affairs, because that was one of my weak points. Apart from that, my mentor advised me to subscribe to the Chronicle IAS magazines and Pratiyogita Darpan. So I used to subscribe to those magazines. Apart from that, I also used to subscribe to CSR, Competition Success Review. I also had a few applications in my phone, like Jagaran Josh and India Today, The Hindu. So those things I also used to refer to for my GK and current affairs. But try to get yourself acquainted with all the burning topics, all the relevant topics that are happening. But even then, sometimes those things are not important because in 2019 GK current affairs, a lot of questions came which were from the IAS level, because
Yes.
in 2018 a number of landmark judgments were given by the Supreme Court, and I really thought that some questions might come from those topics. So I had really prepared myself well for
Mm-hmm.
the topics. But to my surprise, no questions came from those topics. So things like that happens, that you tend to overlook certain topics which you might not find as relevant. Uh, so that those things like that are a bit risky, but it is not possible. You are a human after all, and it's not possible for you to learn about each and everything under the sun. So yeah, I would say that give your best, follow these tips, and you will pretty much be able to uh, cover a number of topics for GK and current
Thank
affairs.
you, ma'am. Now, ma'am, what is your pro-revising tips to revise prior night of exam, as we have to prepare at least three subjects for the next day?
Well, the prior night of the exam, I would say the most important thing is keeping your body fit, because when you are appearing for two exams for 6 hours back to back, that really makes you physically as well as mentally exhausted. So keeping your body fit is very much important. So what I used to do is, after I came back from the examination hall, when I came back home, the first thing I used to do is I used to drink plenty of water. Then I used to freshen up and eat some food, and then I started with my preparations. The first thing that I used to prepare was the subject that was there in the second half. I used to take about 2 hours of time for revision. I didn't revise everything exhaustively. What I did is I used to go through the notes that I have made, the short notes. And if you can do that, you will see that you will be able to recall each and everything that you have studied so far. Please don't think of, reading anything new on the night prior to the examination, because that never helps. And if you do that, you will confuse yourself and you will end up forgetting everything. So whatever you've studied so far, please leave it at that. And yeah, for after that, revising for 2 hours for the subject that was there in the second half. After that, I used to revise for the subject that was there in the first half. So if there were two subparts, then I used to devote about 2 hours of time for each part. And if there were not just one part, then I used to devote about 3 to 4 hours of time for that subject. So that's what I did. And you will not be able to get as much sleep during that time. So me personally, I received about only I slept for about 4 hours during that time, which was a bit exhaustive for me. But yes, you cannot help it. You have to like stay fit physically, and you will have to deal with that portion. But after your compulsory papers are over, when your optional papers start, you will find that that will be much more relaxing for you, because in between the subjects you will definitely get a few days gap, at least 1 or 2 days of gap. So the optional papers would be very relaxing for you. So yeah, that is how I prepared myself prior to the examination.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, my next question to you. In judicial service, since competition is very high and a number of seats are very few compared to the number of students appearing, how to handle performance pressure and stay motivated to face the challenge?
Uh, See, you have to always keep in mind that even if the competition is very high and the number of seats are few compared to the number of aspirants, you should always keep at the back of your mind that at the end of the day, these are only numbers. And if you're working really hard, if you're working hard enough, if you're working smart enough, if you're working sincerely, and if you are not losing your focus, then these things don't matter. Okay, you always have to stay positive, you always have to keep faith in yourself, because yeah, there are times, especially when if you have appeared for the examination once and you have not been able to clear it, then sometimes you may tend to get demotivated at times. Sometimes you might feel frustrated, which happened to me quite a number of times. So that time, my family was always there beside me, especially my father. He was a big support system for me. He always used to motivate me. He always told me that the battle is never over, and that to keep faith in myself, to always be positive that yes, I'm going to win this battle. It is not over yet. And also my mentor, his contribution in this regard is immense, because he always told me that the all the competitors that are appearing for the examination along with me, they are only students of law, and it is not possible for everybody to know everything. Everybody has got their own weaknesses and their own setbacks. So it's just that you have to your areas of strength, you have to make the most of it. and your areas of weaknesses, you have to work hard to overcome those weaknesses. So yes, if you are having that kind of faith that I will be able to do it, I will be able to reach the goal, then I don't think these numbers matter a lot. Um, Also, don't let any kind of nervousness or any kind of pressure get into your way of performance, because I've seen times, there have been times when I have seen very brilliant students of law who are very good in studies, have great conceptions of law. They tend to get so nervous that during the time of examination, after appearing for one or two subjects, one or two papers, they will refuse to sit for the rest of the examination, and automatically they will lose out on their chances. So that is very disheartening to watch. Don't let that happen to you. Always keep faith in you that you will be able to do it no matter what. So yeah, hard work, smart work, perseverance, these things will definitely help you in achieving your dream. So yes.
So, ma'am, the mantra is staying positive, right?
Yes, definitely.
Um, Ma'am, how one should present himself or herself to clear the interview? Like, what should be the dress code? What kind of questions to be expected?
See, the process of interview, it is not a process where you are tested on how much legal knowledge you have, because you have already been tested on that during your mains. So it is a process where you are tested on your personality, as the name rightly suggests. It's a personality test. So my mentor, Dr. Agarwal sir, always suggested me to stay calm, to stay polite, to be respectful, to be humble, but also to have a body language that exudes confidence. Also, he helped me in preparing my interviews by holding mock interview sessions. He held several mock interview sessions for preparing myself better for the interviews, where he told me, how to present myself, what kind of body language I should have, the kind of things that I should prepare for, like you should be aware of the happenings of the court, like the practical knowledge of the court decorums, the court etiquettes, the functioning of the court. That is very important. Apart from that, I would say when a candidate is appearing for an interview for the first time, he or she might tend to get a little bit nervous. But you will find that as soon as you enter the room, uh, your nervousness will subside, because the panel of interviewers, they are very friendly. They make the situation very comfortable for you. They will first start with asking questions which are which will put you at ease. They will start off by asking questions regarding your schooling, from where have you done your schooling, your colleges, where you're working right now. If you're pursuing your masters, then what is your subject and why you chose those subjects, things like that. um so yeah, apart from that, basic legal questions, I think you need not worry about the basic legal questions, because you have already prepared them enough during your mains. And also, generally during interview, very complicated legal based questions are not asked. So whatever questions, legal based questions, you will be asked, you will find that you will be able to answer them without any difficulties. uh, Apart from that, another thing that you can prepare for is, as I said before, that you can also prepare for the historical importance of your hometown. uh, get yourself acquainted with a basic knowledge about the geographical map of the state, because sometimes you're asked things like the important places within the state and its historical importance. So these things, if you follow, I'm sure the process of interview, or rather personality test, would become a very pleasant experience for you. So yes.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, today various institutions also offer judicial service courses, right? What is your take on that? Is getting enrolled into such institutions for clearing the service mandatory? What do you think?
I don't think it is at all mandatory, because joining any sort of coaching centers or institutions, I would say, um, competitive exams like this are always kind of a personal battle, and you always have to do your own thing. And no matter which institution you join, and whatever study materials or notes you're receiving from these institutions, you always have to do your own thing. But having said that, having a mentor is important, of course, because a mentor would definitely show you the right way to your success. He would guide you, he would make the process smoother for you. Um so, yeah, that is that. I personally don't think that joining any institutions or any coaching centers, for that matter, is really important for you to crack the examinations. There are number of candidates who have successfully been able to crack the examination without any formal coaching. But yes, if you have any doubts, any queries, you can always ask your mentor. If you don't have a mentor, you can always ask professors from your college. You can always discuss it with your friends, your seniors. These things really help. But yes, if you're working hard enough, if you're working smart enough, and if you are sincere with your work, I don't think joining a coaching center or any institutions for receiving training is important. So, yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, now you are in your dream profession, right? Being in your dream service, what are the challenges that you face in your day-to-day life? As we all know about the glamour of the profession, the power and the position, but what kind of challenges or workload one should expect being a judicial officer?
Well, you see, I am yet to join the service, so
Okay.
I can say that I am all too familiar with the kind of workload or the kind of responsibilities that a judicial officer has to deal with on a daily basis. All that I can say is that now that we have cracked the examination and we have become judicial officers, our words and our actions would have a bigger impact on the society. People would count us on that. So whatever you say and you do have to be more responsible. It has to be more sensible. You have to be more respectful towards your society. You cannot just go on saying everything that your heart pleases, at least in the public or in social media or any sort of public forums. You can't talk about, for example, about your political afflictions. So things like that are not acceptable. And also, as I said, that with as the saying goes, the popular saying goes that with great powers comes great responsibilities. So
Yes.
when you become a judicial officer, I'm sure you have to face with a lot of responsibility, and for that, maintaining a disciplined life is very important. Because when you are leading a disciplined life, when you are following a well planned pattern of life, it becomes much more easier for you to deal any type of workload. So these things I'm trying to follow right now. So apart from that, not much. So yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. So, ma'am, lastly, I have taken already a lot of time to interact with you, but it is a very interesting session and inspiring too. Lastly, ma'am, I would like to ask you your valuable suggestions to your successor who are about to follow your footsteps.
Uh, I would like to advise my fellow successors and my other fellow aspirant brothers and sisters that, always believe in your dream, always be positive, always have faith in yourself, work hard, work smart, believe in yourself that you will be able to achieve your goal. And if you follow these things, nothing can stop you from achieving your goal. Having faith in yourself is very important. And lastly, I would say that sometimes there are considerations, there are reasons for opting for this job. Considerations like, the kind of social standing that comes with the job, or the kind of dignity or powers that comes with the job. Police officers saluting you. All these things are there, but this should never be your primary concerns to opt for this job. Your primary concern should always be to make a meaningful difference in the society by contribution to the evolution of law, by making creative interpretations of law. These should be your primary goals. So yeah, so with that, I wish all the aspirants all the best for the upcoming examinations. So Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable suggestion, and I wish you best of luck for your future.
Thank you so
Uh,
much.
now, uh, since this session has been we have come to know a lot of things from the ma'am directly who have cleared these exam in this year. Now, I would like to request sir to grace us with his valuable words and motivate us more.
Thank you, Pratyusha. Thank you,
Thank you,
Vedashruti,
sir.
for
Thank you.
your lovely interaction. I was enjoying every bit of it. And Vedashruti, I would like to take classes from you for remaining fit, for daily discipline. Okay.
Oh, that would
Now,
be my immense pleasure.
yeah, good. See, uh, she spoke very wisely regarding the code of conduct of any person with sort of the public responsibility which a judicial officer has, and in everything which she said there was a lot of wisdom. So Vedashruti may be a quiet girl as such, but she is so full of knowledge that we came to know today. And I am sure that from her experience and from her way of preparation, from her way of seeing things, the aspirants will be immensely benefited. Vedashruti, thank you so much for your time which you have invested today, and which will give you rich dividends in the form of lot of satisfaction when you learn that many aspirants got motivated and inspired by your words. So thank you so much, Pratyusha. Thank you, Vedashruti, once more, and
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
It's
so
all
my
much
the
for
best.
pleasure.
having me.
All the best for your future. May you become one of the best judges of this country, and never be complacent. Keep learning, because whether you are a judge or you are a lawyer, this part of this profession of law, you keep learning every moment, and therefore keep yourself abreast with the latest developments. And judicial service is up for a lot of change also. Many new things are getting introduced by which there will be jump promotions on the basis of examinations. So let us hope my gems they scale greater heights, and that will fill my heart with pride, because I get elated and most happy when I see my students and gems happy. Thank you once more, Vedashruti. Thank you once more, Pratyusha. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
insightful questions. You may
Thank you,
end
sir. My
now with a vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am. That's all for today. Hope you guys like our session. And if you guys like our session, please don't forget to share, subscribe, and hit the like button and help us to expand our family. Thank you.